Part 13. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wu Nian. Chapter 121. Do as he said. Chen Mu fell from the sky and landed directly in the sea. After entering the sea, his body turned into a blue whale. If you want the blue whale to acquire the flying ability of birds, then you naturally have to use gluttony evolution. Chen Mu has done many experiments before, and he knows very well that the results of the experiments fail more than they succeed. Therefore, Chen Mu will naturally not participate in the gluttony evolution experiment before the experiment succeeds. That would be too stupid. Chen Mu locked onto a group of dolphins 100 meters away through his consciousness vision. Use the control ability. One of the dolphins stopped swimming. Sharing abilities, sharing the ability to change, and then using the ability to control the dolphin to use the ability to change. Boom, with a loud noise, the dolphin's size instantly increased. The huge body of a giant blue whale emerged from the sea, and the sea water splashed, flowing down along the huge body of the blue whale. The dolphins were pushed onto the blue whale because of the sudden enlargement of the blue whale's body. Due to gravity and seawater, the dolphins rolled off the blue whale's huge body. Bang, bang, bang. The dolphins fell on the sea, and they were all confused when they saw their companions who had turned into blue whales. One of the dolphins looked at his companions next to him. Is this blue whale our companion just turned into? The dolphin companion looked at the blue whale next to him in a daze and said, it seems to be, I just saw that guy glowing, and then it became like this. When the dolphin heard it, it said oh, and suddenly its pupils condensed slightly, looking at its companions, and said, what's wrong with you? Why are you glowing too? The dolphin companion was startled, and it looked at its body glowing with golden light. Ah! Why am I glowing too? Suddenly, the dolphin companion came to his senses. Hey, why are you glowing too? The dolphin was suddenly surprised and excited. Are we going to turn into blue whales too? Great! Accompanied by the golden light, the bodies of the two dolphins turned into two albatrosses. The two albatrosses floated on the sea, looked at each other, and were stunned. Why did we become birds? Said one of the albatrosses. The other albatross said, I don't know either. Shouldn't we become blue whales? It's unfair. I don't accept it. At this time, the blue whale opened its mouth, and the two albatrosses were rolled up by the sea water and sank into the blue whale's mouth together. It's over. The albatrosses were struggling, but struggling was useless. Although they had become albatrosses, they didn't know how to fly yet. In addition, the sea water was rushing into the blue whale's mouth crazily, so they couldn't struggle at all. One of the albatrosses came to his senses and found that there were several dolphins that had become albatrosses next to him. Seeing this, the albatross heart suddenly moved, and the anger in his heart slowly disappeared. It turns out that other companions have also become birds. It turns out that I am not the only one who is unlucky. The albatross swallowed by the blue whale turned into golden light and sank into the blue whale's body. Gluttony evolution. The blue whale's body also turned into golden light. The golden light turned into a huge sphere with a diameter of 40 meters. This giant sphere was suspended above the sea level, half in the sea and half on the sea surface. The giant sphere did not last long before it began to change its shape again. In order to facilitate the use of control ability, Chen Mu had already used the body doubling. At this moment, Chen Mu, who had turned into a supergiant blue whale, swam around a giant light ball, and he observed the changes of the light ball through his consciousness. Not long after, the giant sphere turned into a brand new creature. When Chen Mu saw the creature in front of him, he was slightly startled. This is a giant bird with a gray body appeared in front of Chen Mu. This giant bird was extremely large. It was estimated to be nearly 40 meters long. You should know that the height of an ordinary person's floor is about 3 meters, which means that the length of the giant bird in front of him is as high as 13 or 14 floors. This is a complete behemoth. After the giant bird appeared, it floated on the sea surface under Chen Mu's control, just like many seabirds. This thing is too huge. Chen Mu wanted to be a blue whale with wings, but the one in front of him was completely transformed into a giant bird. If it was just a giant bird, it would not be able to transport seawater. However, it doesn't matter. Chen Mu can use the albatross as the basic body to carry out predation evolution, so that he can still become a blue whale later. At that time, he can use the blue whale and the ability to transform into a giant bird to transport water. With the size of the giant bird, the speed must be very fast. The only problem is that the failure rate of genetic mutation evolution such as gem evolution is n times higher than the success rate. Can it be transformed from a blue whale into a giant bird? Try it. Chen Mu asked it to use the ability to transform from a giant bird to a white-bellied sea eagle. The white-bellied sea eagle flapped its wings and flew into the air. The larger the size of the bird, the more difficult it is to take off, and even when the weight reaches a certain level, it cannot fly. The largest bird in the world has given up flying. It is called the ostrich. The albatross is slightly smaller than the ostrich, and it needs a running start to take off. Although the giant bird in front of us looks like a giant bird and has all the characteristics of a flying bird, it is estimated that it is not easy to take off. So Chen Mu planned to send it to the air first, and then use the upper air current to give it the power to fly, and then observe it. The white-bellied sea eagle flew straight into the sky. When it flew to an altitude of about 6,000 meters, the white-bellied sea eagle's body was slightly bright, and it suddenly turned into that giant bird. The giant bird suddenly spread its wings, and the huge wings were like clouds hanging in the sky, very huge. It flapped its wings and soared in the sky. Looking at the giant bird in the sky through the conscious vision from the sea, Chen Mu observed for a while. It seems that there is no problem. But for the sake of caution, Chen Mu chose to wait for a day. The next day, Chen Mu's giant bird was still hovering in the air, and it seemed that there was no problem. The giant bird was under Chen Mu's control and landed beside Chen Mu, splashing water. Chen Mu turned into an albatross. At the moment when Chen Mu turned into an albatross, the dull pupils of the giant bird suddenly passed a ray of light. The condition for the control ability is that Chen Mu's body size is larger than the target of control, and when Chen Mu turned into an albatross, his body size shrank. Once it shrank, he lost control of the giant bird. The giant bird regained consciousness and suddenly screamed to the sky. Ah, the sound was like the cry of a phoenix, straight up to the sky. However, Chen Mu, as an albatross, pounced directly on the giant bird. Predatory evolution. After several experiments, Chen Mu has realized that predatory evolution ignores body size. But if you want to prey, the new creatures obtained by gluttonous evolution need to be preyed by creatures with the same genes as a certain gene in the new creature. Simply put, if you want to prey on the giant bird in front of you, you need an albatross or a blue whale to prey on it. And Chen Mu chose to use the albatross. As the predatory evolution began, the giant bird turned into golden light and sank into Chen Mu's body. Chen Mu's body was reconstructed and turned into the giant bird. Chen Mu raised his wings and looked at them, his mouth curled up. This is a one-shot hit, a single draw of SSR, an unexpected surprise. In the previous experiments, it would take 1 or 2 months to get a good creature. And this time, with just one try, he got such a giant bird. Of course, this kind of huge bird also has flaws. If the body is too huge, it will be difficult to take off. Of course, Chen Mu didn't care. He turned into a white-bellied sea eagle and flew directly to an altitude of 6,000 meters. Turned his body. He turned into a giant bird with a body length of 40 meters, spread his wings, and with the help of the rising air currents in the air, like a kite encountering wind, his body was suddenly lifted up by the rising air currents. From an altitude of 6,000 meters, he broke through the cloud layer between 6,000 meters and 10,000 meters. He rushed straight to an altitude of 10,000 meters. He was soaring in the sky. There were clouds below him, and the sun could be seen in front of him, which was shorter than him. Feeling the strong wind blowing the feathers on his body, Chen Mu felt at ease. A feeling called freedom surged up. Comfortable, Chen Mu said excitedly. While he was sighing, he unconsciously heard a huge bird cry rising into the sky. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 122. 3 off-road vehicles were parked on the grassland. Several sniper gunners holding special anesthetic bullets were already distributed in various positions, staring at the direction where Chen Mu left, waiting for Chen Mu to come back. The officer in military uniform was sitting on the off-road vehicle, crossing his legs and looking at the direction where Chen Mu left. Next to the off-road vehicle, the female soldier in military uniform was also waiting. The uniformed man raised his hand and looked at his watch. He retracted his gaze and continued to look into the distance. It's been 2 whole days, why haven't you come back yet? He was a little impatient. The female soldier subconsciously looked at the uniformed man and said, "Sir, do you want to retreat temporarily?" When the uniformed man heard this, he squinted his eyes and said, "Wait a little longer, give orders, everyone keep an eye on the sky in the north, as long as that guy appears and enters the attack range, shoot him." Yes, the female soldier nodded. At this time, there was a breeze blowing. One of the snipers looked in the direction where the wind came from, and he saw that there seemed to be a dark shadow in the sky. He whispered, "What is that?" He subconsciously picked up the telescope and looked at the shadow. Through the telescope, he saw 2 birds flying side by side in the clouds. "See the 2 birds." The sniper muttered, "It turned out to be 2 birds." He took the telescope down, raised his face and looked up again. In the sky, he had seen the shadows of the 2 birds in the sky with his naked eyes. He seemed to have discovered something, and was slightly stunned. His eyebrows suddenly frowned, and he subconsciously glanced at the distance displayed by the laser rangefinder on the telescope in his hand. At this moment, the sniper suddenly raised his face and looked at the birds flying in the sky. There was sweat on his forehead. How could it be? The farther the distance, the smaller the target looks. This is the effect of vision. There are many kinds of laser rangefinders. The civilian laser rangefinder can measure a shorter distance, while the more advanced military ones are enough to measure a distance of dozens of kilometers. The 2 birds were transformed by Chen Mu and Chen Mu's clone. Because Chen Mu and Chen Mu's clone were at an altitude of more than 10,000 meters at this moment, what the people below could see was naturally a very small shadow. Feeling the wind, the female soldier seemed to feel something. She raised her face and subconsciously looked up at the sky. She also noticed the 2 shadows above the clouds in the sky. "What is that?" the female soldier said subconsciously. She seemed to remember something and subconsciously looked at the uniformed man beside her and said, "Sir, look over there." The uniformed man heard it and looked in the direction the female soldier was looking. He frowned and said, "That is." He picked up the telescope next to him and looked into the distance through the telescope. "It's a bird." "But, this height, not right." The uniformed man looked at the distance shown by the telescope, and his expression changed slightly. "This is impossible." The female soldier looked at the uniformed man and said, "Sir, what's wrong?" The uniformed man put down the telescope and said, "The height is 15,000 meters. At such a high place, the bird is the largest bird in the world. We can't see it with our naked eyes. Unless..." The uniformed man looked a little unbelievable. The female soldier's expression also changed a little, her pupils trembling. "Unless, it is as big as some civil transport planes. But this idea is too crazy. Crazy to the point that it is unacceptable. Is it? The female soldier said subconsciously. There were beads of sweat on the uniformed man's forehead. He clenched the telescope in his hand and said, "Retreat." The female soldier was stunned. She looked at the uniformed man. "Chief." The uniformed man got on the off-road vehicle by himself. The other snipers gave up their mission and walked into the car one by one. At the same time, through the camera of the drone, the man in the white coat squinted his eyes as he watched this scene. "Teacher, are they leaving now?" The woman next to him looked at the man in the white coat in confusion. The man in the white coat crossed his arms and said, "The special tranquilizer bullets are okay for the slightly larger albatross, but it would be foolish to use them against a giant beast as big as a civil airliner. Not to mention whether it can penetrate the skin, it would be hard to penetrate the feathers. It is indeed difficult for him to disobey the orders of the group. He must take action against the god. He wants to take risks, but he doesn't want to die." The size of a civil airliner, the woman was stunned. She looked at the teacher in disbelief and said, "Is it that huge?" The man in the white coat said, "It is now at an altitude of more than 10,000 meters. At this altitude, the drone is at a certain altitude, but the shape can still be seen, which means that the size of the bird is at least the same as that of a civil airliner." The woman looked at the screen and muttered, "Peng." When the man in the white coat heard it, he looked at the woman. "What did you say?" The woman said, "Teacher, that, I have studied Eastern mythology before. There is a huge bird named Peng mentioned in the mythology. It is said that it is a giant bird transformed from a big fish kun. I wonder if what we are seeing now is Peng." The man in the white coat thought about it, but did not say anything, but subconsciously looked at the screen. At this time, Chen Mu and his clone had already flown to the sky above the place where water was needed. At the same time, the two giant birds turned into two giant blue whales. As soon as the giant blue whale appeared, it opened its mouth. A giant blue whale had more than 100 densities of seawater in its mouth. The two giant blue whales had nearly 300 densities of seawater, which poured down directly from a height of 10,000 meters. When all the water was poured out, Chen Mu released his clone. Because Chen Mu had changed from a giant bird to a blue whale, he had lost his wings, and his huge body sank directly due to gravity. At the moment of sinking, Chen Mu's huge body directly hit the seawater he poured out. The cold seawater hit Chen Mu directly. This made Chen Mu a little confused. Didn't we agree that materials of the same mass would fall to the ground at the same time? Why did the seawater fall so much slower than himself when it came to me? Indeed, in a vacuum environment, objects of different masses would fall to the ground at the same time when affected by gravity. But the premise is that it is in a vacuum. In the absence of a vacuum, various upward forces will appear, such as air resistance and rising air currents in the air. When affected by various factors, the greater the mass density, the faster it falls, while the smaller the mass density, the slower it falls. Bang! With a muffled sound, Chen Mu, who was falling rapidly, directly broke up the mass of water that was nearly 300 densities. The man in the white coat and the woman in the tent saw the scene on the screen. The giant bird turned into a big fish, and the big fish fell directly from the sky. As the big fish continued to fall, it became clearer and clearer. Because it was too high, and the water surrounding the big fish made the big fish seem to be swimming in the sky. The man in the white coat recognized the identity of the creature, blue whale. He looked surprised. But the woman's pupils were trembling slightly, and her mouth moved slightly. The kun flying in the sky. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 123. The woman muttered, "There is a fish in the North Sea, named Kun. The ancients in the East liked to use exaggeration to describe some things. They said that Kun is 1,000 miles long, which should be an exaggeration to say that the creature is big. Kun can turn into a big bird, and the big bird is called Peng. She looked at the giant blue whale on the screen. The giant blue whale on the screen glowed with light under her gaze. It turned into a big bird that had never appeared before. Because Chen Mu was no longer so high, when he turned into a big bird, the woman could clearly see the hugeness of the bird. The huge wings spread out, one wing was estimated to be 40 meters long, and the wings and the body were stretched out, nearly 100 meters. The sky was covered, as if the whole sky was covered by this big bird. The big fish turned into a giant bird. The woman's eyes trembled slightly. It's Kunpeng. She subconsciously looked at the teacher beside her and said, "Teacher, it's Kunpeng." The man in the white coat looked at the woman beside him. "Kunpeng." The woman nodded. "I have studied ancient Eastern mythology. Kun is a big fish, and the big fish is turning into Peng. Kunpeng can be transformed freely, and ancient mythology says that they are all very huge. What we see now is Kunpeng." The man in the white coat frowned. "The blue whale, is Kun." The woman nodded. "It's possible. Kunpeng is recorded in Zhuangzi's Happy Journey, and has nothing to do with Shanhaijing. There is a fish named Kun in the North Ming. Some people say that the blue whale may be Kun. Some people refute that Kun is in the North Ming, that is, the north, and most blue whales gather in the Antarctic, so it is impossible. But in fact, the rebuttal is wrong. The distribution range of blue whales is global. Due to the large-scale hunting in modern times, the distribution of blue whales is concentrated in Antarctica. But in ancient times, as long as the ocean can accommodate blue whales may appear. Blue whales often jump out of the water. When blue whales jump, the huge fins are like the wings of birds. Because blue whales are very large, larger than other whales, the ancients called them Kun, and it is possible that they thought that the appearance of them jumping out of the sea was Peng. After all, Zhuangzi, the author of Xiaoyu, may not have seen it with his own eyes. He may have heard it from others, and then spread it among people, and naturally this creature appeared. Of course, it is also possible that it is a fantasy creature written by Zhuangzi himself, and there is no prototype. Of course, all this is just speculation. Only Zhuangzi knows what the truth is. And at this moment, in the eyes of this woman and this man in a white coat, the creature on the screen that can turn from a big fish into a giant bird is the legendary and mythical Kunpeng. Of course, Chen Mu would not use the body of a blue whale to perform free fall to amuse Newton. So, Chen Mu turned back into a giant bird in mid-air, flapping his wings and flying in mid-air. Suddenly, Chen Mu noticed something was wrong. It turned out that the nearly 300-meter seawater that fell from the sky began to evaporate wildly due to air friction, rising air currents, etc. The outer seawater was evaporated first, flew into the sky, and formed clouds. When the outer seawater disappeared, the inner seawater continued to evaporate slowly. And these clouds, as more and more seawater was lifted by air tension, the water vapor content in the clouds increased. The clouds above Chen Mu's head now became dark because of too much water vapor. At this moment, it was already covered with dark clouds. Boom, there were lightning and thunder in the dark clouds. Seeing this, Chen Mu was slightly stunned. Chen Mu thought that the sea water he spit out from the sky would fall directly to the ground. He never expected that these waters would turn into clouds. Indeed, if the place where Chen Mu's nearly 300-meter seawater fell was close enough to the ground, the seawater would fall directly to the ground like ordinary people watering flowers. But the problem is that the place where Chen Mu fell was 10,000 meters high. These seawaters had no time to fall, and they had already vaporized due to various reasons of air resistance. Just like the seawater sucked up from the sea by a tornado, a large amount of seawater was thrown into the sky, and those seawater thrown into the sky by the tornado. The sea water thrown into the sky by the tornado was also a huge amount, and even before it reached 10,000 meters, it all turned into dark clouds and rain. What Chenmu did was similar to what a tornado did, transporting the sea water from the sea to the sky. And what happened next was naturally the same as what a tornado brought. In the sky, there were dark clouds, lightning, and thunder, and because of the difference in air pressure, there was a howling wind between the dark clouds and the ground. The strong wind was filled with thick water vapor and a hint of salt. The soldiers who were about to leave had already stopped, and they were watching the scene from afar. The female soldier looked at the dark clouds in the sky. She was a little stunned. It's obviously the dry season now, it's impossible for it to rain here at this time, what's going on? The uniformed man looked at the huge bird hovering under the dark clouds, his pupils trembling slightly. It summoned these dark clouds, it created these dark clouds. The uniformed man looked solemn and terrified. Could it be, what that guy said is true, this thing is really a god? At the same time, in the tent, the man in the white coat and the woman were stunned for a moment when they saw this scene. Control the clouds and rain, the man in the white coat said subconsciously, his pupils trembling, his eyes full of surprise. The woman couldn't help but say, isn't that the ability of the dragon in the Eastern mythology? The man in the white coat looked solemn. If this scene is spread out, it can be completely confirmed that it is not an ordinary beast, but a god. But, is it really done by it? Teacher, look, the woman suddenly found something and hurriedly said to the man in the white coat. The man in the white coat was startled, and he looked at Chenmu on the screen. At a glance, he found that Chenmu had fallen to the ground. The giant bird was shining with golden light. This is... The man in the white coat looked surprised. Is this the situation when it uses its divine power? Sure enough, it is controlling the clouds and rain. Suddenly, a flash of lightning flashed in the sky. The light came on. Boom, a loud noise sounded. Chenmu looked at the direction of the lightning, and it turned out that landing was the right choice. If struck by this lightning, it would not be very pleasant. But... what's going on? Chenmu muttered. He looked at his body and found that his body was emitting golden light again and again. At the same time, Chenmu could feel pain coming from all parts of his body, and at the same time, he felt the healing feeling of being automatically repaired by the extremely fast self-healing. This golden light is the effect of the extremely fast self-healing ability. Why do I feel pain all over my body since I landed? This extremely fast self-healing is also repairing my body. What's going on? Chenmu muttered. The mechanical voice of the system sounded, your bones and body organs cannot support your huge weight. When you fly in the sky, the rising air currents in the sky support your body and keep you from getting hurt. After landing, there is no help from the rising air currents, so your body begins to be damaged. After hearing it, Chenmu understood. So that's it? It's because of overweight. For example, the blue whale is too heavy, so after landing, its organs and bones cannot bear its weight, and it will be crushed to death by its own weight. So the blue whale can only live in the sea, relying on the buoyancy of the sea water to support its body, so that it will be fine. After Chenmu turned into a giant bird like a blue whale, he flew in the sky. The rising air currents in the sky were like the buoyancy of the sea water, which helped Chenmu to support his body in disguise and prevented him from being crushed to death. But once he landed, it was completely different. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 124. The sky was pitch black. The heavy rain roared down, and the rain fell directly on the ground. Chenmu, who felt the pain, chose to reduce his size to prevent being targeted by lightning. From the appearance of a giant bird to the appearance of a griffin. At the same time. Sir, look, the female soldier noticed that Chenmu had turned back into a griffin, and she couldn't help but look at the officer beside her. The man in military uniform looked at Chen Mu's figure, his eyebrows frowned, adjusted his mentality, and looked at the sniper rifle in the hand of the sniper beside him. This sniper rifle contains special anesthetic bullets. If this special anesthetic bullet cannot penetrate the feathers of Chen Mu, who is like Dapen, it will be different now that Chen Mu has become a griffin. The size of a griffin is only slightly larger than that of a lion. This anesthetic bullet is enough to knock down 5 or 6 lions, and obviously a griffin can also do it. However, before, the man in military uniform was very afraid of Chen Mu, so he didn't do it. And now they are less than 1,000 meters away from Chen Mu, which is the best sniping distance. And Chen Mu hasn't moved yet. It can be said that now is the perfect time for sniping. As long as Chen Mu is knocked down and the god is captured, he will become famous and have whatever he wants. But if he fails, he will anger the god and will die. The boiling blood rushed to his head, and the fear disappeared. He gritted his teeth, stretched out his hand suddenly, and snatched the sniper rifle from the sniper beside him. He pointed the muzzle at the griffin in the distance, and gave an order, "All sniper rifles, aim the muzzle at the target." The snipers were slightly stunned, but as soldiers, they had to obey the orders of their superiors. The sniper rifles were raised and aimed at Chen Mu in the distance. "All of you, shoot with me. 3, 2, 1. Anesthetic bullets shot out from the muzzle and shot at Chen Mu at a very fast speed. The man in military uniform was excited. As long as he succeeded, he would usher in real success. Seeing that the anesthetic bullet was about to hit Chen Mu was covered with a layer of silver steel. Clang clang clang. Accompanied by bursts of fire. All the tranquilizer bullets were deflected, and the twisted bullets flew to the side. Seeing this scene, the uniformed man's pupils shrank slightly, and his expression was a little surprised. The other soldiers looked a little uneasy. "What's going on?" those soldiers were thinking in their hearts. "Why were all the bullets blocked? What on earth was it?" And the female soldier looked at the griffin covered with silver armor, and she realized something. It knew about our existence from the beginning. Chen Mu slowly turned his head, because his head was also covered by armor, and his pupils were also covered by armor, and the original pupils were replaced by red and sharp light. The soldiers realized that the god was staring at them. Their faces changed from uneasiness to fear, strong fear. At this time, one of the soldiers suddenly shouted, "Ah!" He turned around and ran. The man in military uniform was stunned when he saw this. "Why are you running?" He was strong and calm, looking at Chen Mu, gritting his teeth, and said, "I don't believe it, what's so scary about this thing?" As he said that, he took out a grenade from his waist. He stared at Chen Mu, "If you dare to come over, I will kill you." Seeing this scene, Chen Mu was too lazy to say anything more, just step by step, approaching the humans in front of him. Chen Mu stared at these humans coldly, and he muttered in his heart, "Sure enough, you still took action." Chen Mu did not see things with his naked eyes, but with his consciousness. His consciousness took himself as the radius, and everything within 10,000 meters could be seen clearly. He saw these humans from the beginning. It's just that he was too lazy to pay attention to them. Of course, Chen Mu understood the greed of humans, and he had a hunch that they would take action. But Chen Mu didn't expect that they would take action at this time. At the same time, in a tent in the distance, the man in the white coat who saw the scene on the monitor said lightly, "I've said it before, it can't be that it doesn't know that we are observing it, it's really stupid." The woman was slightly startled, and she subconsciously looked at the man in the white coat. "Teacher, if humans offend God in this way, will it?" The man in the white coat frowned. "I don't know, how can we guess the consciousness of God?" The woman bit her thin lip. Watching Chen Mu approaching step by step, the man in military uniform gritted his teeth and threw the grenade at Chen Mu. Chen Mu didn't even look at this thing. Bang! Accompanied by the explosion of the grenade. Chen Mu's body was just a burst of fire. This thing that is full of threats to humans did not even leave any traces on Chen Mu's armor. Seeing this, the man in military uniform's pupils trembled, and he subconsciously took a step back. At this time, behind him, the soldiers realized that Chen Mu was invincible and ran towards the off-road vehicle one after another. The female soldier subconsciously looked at the uniformed man. "Sir, we have to run." However, the uniformed man stared at Chen Mu blankly, as if he was in a trance. Seeing this, the female soldier frowned, gritted her teeth, and could only turn around and leave, leaving the uniformed man behind. Chen Mu flapped his wings. His body flew up, passed over the uniformed man, pounced on the soldiers who were about to escape. The female soldier felt the wind coming from behind her. She looked back and saw the armored griffin coming towards her. Her pupils trembled. No. The sharp wings were like sharp blades at this moment, and they passed by with the wings. The human body was split in two. Hearing the screams behind him, the uniformed man slowly knelt on the ground. Although his eyes were blinded by the interests, the fear of death at this moment made him sober. It's not that he forgot to escape, but he knew he couldn't escape. No matter how fast the car was, on this grassland, could it be faster than a winged god? Very quickly, the 18 soldiers all turned into 18 corpses. The uniformed man heard the wind coming from behind him. He didn't even dare to raise his head. At this time, he didn't raise his head and saw the sharp claws of the alien beast that were a fusion of sharp and animal claws. It was the god was back, and it stood in front of him. The uniformed man felt suffocated, his body was beaten by the cold rain, and the biting cold came, but this cold was far less than the cold that came from his heart, it was the cold that penetrated the soul. And that cold has a name: fear. Why are you kneeling on the ground? Do you want to beg for mercy? A strange voice drilled into his ears. The voice made the uniformed man feel like being struck by lightning, and his whole body shook violently. He slowly raised his face and looked at the creature in front of him. His eyes were filled with indescribable surprise. In the tent. After hearing the voice, the man in the white coat was like being struck by lightning. He stood there in a daze, staring at the screen, his pupils full of disbelief. Chen Mu looked at the uniformed man and said lightly, "Unfortunately, it's too late." With a wave of sharp wings, the uniformed man's body was split into two. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 125. Inside the tent. The man in the white coat looked at the picture on the screen. He stared blankly at the figure of Chen Mu flapping his wings and leaving. He couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. For a long time. He slowly adjusted his mood and murmured to himself, "It can speak human language." The woman looked at the man in the white coat next to her. The teacher had already determined that the creature in front of him was a god, but when an animal-like creature spoke human words, the shock felt was difficult to describe in words. "Teacher," the woman said subconsciously, "since it can use human language, does that mean we can communicate with it?" When the man in the white coat heard this, he subconsciously looked at the woman beside him. Communicate. He looked away and looked at the screen in front of him. Communicate with God. He shook his head, slowly pulled up a chair and sat down, resting his head on his hands and closing his eyes, as if thinking. He said, "Are human beings today suitable for contact with God? I don't know about this question." The woman looked at the teacher. She didn't know what to say. She could only choose to look at the screen and remain silent. For Chen Mu, human actions are just a small episode. As a human being, Chen Mu naturally knew the greed of some humans. It was completely expected that humans would attack him. But Chen Mu is still a little disappointed. As a former human being, he is disappointed with mankind. Chen Mu returned to the place where the lion cow ant queen was, and continued his breeding life as usual. The reproduction speed of lion ant queens is so fast that they can basically give birth to 1 million lion ant queens in 1 month. Therefore, in order to allow the grass in the grassland to keep up with the growth progress and the reproduction progress of the lion and cow ants, to achieve a balance, Chen Mu chose to devour and eliminate lion ants every 15 days to control the number of lion ants. Of course, lion ants will eat anything. Basically, wherever the lion ants are, other creatures will either run away or become food directly. In this way, time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. On this day, a lion ant caught a creature, and it was carrying the creature back to the lion ant queen. Chen Mu, who was resting on the side, saw what the lion ant was holding. Upon seeing it, Chen Mu subconsciously raised his head. Peacock. The corpse held by the lion ant was clearly that of a peacock. To be precise, it was a blue peacock. There are several species of peacocks. The more common ones are blue peacocks and green peacocks. To distinguish blue peacocks from green peacocks, it is very simple. Just look at the neck. A blue neck is a blue peacock, and a green neck is a green peacock. And the peacock in front of me is the blue peacock among them. In fact, in Africa, Chen Mu had seen a peacock before, but Chen Mu didn't recognize it at the time. There is a kind of peacock here in Africa called the Congo peacock. In Chen Mu's impression, peacocks' tails are very delicate, looking like round eyes one after another, colorful and gorgeous. The reason why peacocks have long and gorgeous tails is because they are male peacocks. In order to attract female peacocks during the breeding season, male peacocks have such tails to attract female peacocks. The Congolese peacock has the body of a peacock, but even the male peacock does not have such a gorgeous and iconic tail, so Chen Mu failed to recognize it. But the peacock in front of me has a gorgeous peacock tail. Obviously this is not a Congolese peacock, but another species of peacock. This is a peacock that is not native to Africa. There are generally 2 ways for non-native creatures to appear in that place. One is to introduce them to zoos, and the other is to raise them by humans. They directly purchase adult peacocks from other countries, or buy eggs and return them to the country for artificial hatching and breeding. Of course, Chen Mu didn't know these things, but he didn't expect to see the peacock at this time. Chen Mu suddenly had an idea. Before, when he transformed into that big bird, he looked like a large gray albatross, which looked a bit unsightly. How about changing your appearance? Thinking about it, Chen Mu stood up, flapped his wings, flew over, and stopped the lion ant. The lion bull ant took a look and looked at Chen Mu. Chen Mu said, "I want this." When the lion cow ant heard this, it put the peacock on the ground and turned away. Lions, cows, and ants all regard Chen Mu as a being whose power is equal to that of the queen of lions, cows, and ants. Naturally, none of them dare to violate Chen Mu's orders. Chen Mu looked at the peacock, raised his wings and played with it. One of the peacock's wings was gone, leaving only a wound, which stained its body red. Dead. Chen Mu thought for a moment. So far, Chen Mu has not preyed on dead animals to evolve predators. So dead animals, okay. Will he end his predatory evolution and die? Give it a try. Just do an experiment. Thinking of this, Chen Mu looked at a lion, cow, and ant next to him. Directly use the control ability to control the lion and bull ants to come here. Through ability sharing, predatory evolution is shared. The lion ant evolved to prey on the peacock. Accompanied by a burst of golden light, the body of the lion ant transformed into a peacock under Chen Mu's gaze. The body is complete and the body is gorgeous. It is standing there with no injuries at all. Seeing this, Chen Mu's eyes lit up. The experiment was successful. Predatory evolution can prey on corpses. Chen Mu walked over and performed predatory evolution on the peacock that was transformed from a lion bull ant. Chen Mu's consciousness slowly disappeared, and after he came to his senses, he subconsciously looked at himself. Is this a peacock? The color is quite gorgeous. Combining the color of this peacock with the giant bird, it is estimated that a better looking thing can be made. Thinking of this, Chen Mu decided to give it a try. Chen Mu's eyes fell on the lion bull ants that were passing by Chen Mu and looking for food. Chen Mu turned into a giant bird, stood aside, and looked ahead. A lion bull ant in front turned into a giant bird, and a lion bull ant next to it turned into a peacock. The giant bird used gluttony evolution to devour the peacock. After nearly devouring 5 peacocks transformed from lion bull ants, the giant bird exuded golden light all over. The body began to shrink, becoming only as small as a peacock, and then began to take shape. A small blue whale with peacock feathers appeared in front of Chen Mu. It jumped and struggled for a few times, and then stopped moving. It was obviously dead. Chen Mu's mouth twitched. Next, Chen Mu continued to use the control ability, ability sharing, sharing change ability, and gluttony evolution ability to carry out gene fusion. This time it was not as simple as the blue whale swallowing the albatross. Chen Mu's experiment lasted for more than a month, and he did more than 1,000 experiments. Fortunately, the reproduction ability of the lion bull ant queen is very strong. Otherwise, at the speed of Chen Mu's experiment, if he had to use a real peacock, it is estimated that the peacock would have to be extinct. Finally, a brand new creature appeared in front of Chen Mu. It was only 2/3 the size of the giant bird, but its feathers were extremely gorgeous. Because it incorporated the genes of the blue whale and the albatross, its appearance was still somewhat different. Especially the tail. Unlike the peacock's tail that folds like a fan, this new creature has only 5 tails, and the end has a peacock-like eye. It has a slender body and stands tall, with a unique temperament, that of a king. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 126. It looks pretty good. Chen Mu's body turned into a peacock, flapped his wings, and flew to the giant bird. The golden light of predation evolution lit up. Chen Mu and the giant bird merged together. It turned into a golden ball of light. After turning into a ball of light, it began to transform into the appearance of a giant bird. Chen Mu turned into the giant bird. The claws landed on the ground and stood firm. Chen Mu did not feel any pain, and the rapid self-healing did not appear. In other words, although the size is 1/3 less than the previous size, the smaller size also brings benefits. As a direct result, the weight has less impact on me. Can the bones and body organs support the weight? This is an unexpected gain. Chen Mu walked around and looked at his body. Now Chen Mu stood on the ground, about 15 meters high. You know, if one floor is about 3 meters, Chen Mu is now as tall as 5 floors. Although the size is much smaller than before, it is definitely a behemoth. Of course, this body shape can prevent Chen Mu from the pain caused by weight, which is also a good thing for him. Moreover, Chen Mu is quite satisfied with this appearance, at least compared to the bird that looks like a gray albatross. His current appearance is much better. After changing into a new skin, Chen Mu continued his breeding business. Time passed day by day. About a week passed like this. In the tent. Someone will come over in a while, the man in the white coat said. When the woman heard it, she looked at the man in the white coat. Who? The man in the white coat sat down on the chair and said, the commotion here is too big. More than a dozen military elites have died. The matter has become a big deal. People from other aspects have also begun to pay attention to it and sent a lot of people here. In name, they are here to help us. I guess they just want to find out the situation here. However, the power game at the top has nothing to do with us. We just do our job well, the man in the white coat said lightly. The woman hummed. At this time, the sound of a car sounded outside the door. Hearing the noise outside, the man in the white coat said, "Here we are." Not long after, a woman in a military uniform, sunglasses, and a ponytail came in from outside. Seeing the two people inside, the woman said, "My name is Chi, you can call me that." The man in the white coat looked at the woman sent by the group in front of him, and said, "My name is Saijian, this is my assistant and student Tang." Chi nodded slightly, crossed her arms and said, "I know you too. I have professionally studied Eastern mythology, and I think I can bring some help to you. What is the current state of the creature you call God?" Saijian turned slightly. The picture on the big screen behind him was displayed in front of her. Chi saw the picture displayed on the big screen. In the picture, a huge bird was standing on the tall grassland, looking at the lion cow ants walking around in the distance. Behind this giant bird, 5 long tails hung down naturally. At the end of the tail, you can see the peacock pseudo-eye similar to that of a peacock, but it is not quite the same. Seeing the bird in front of her, the woman frowned, and she subconsciously took off her sunglasses and looked at it carefully. Her eyebrows frowned even deeper, and she subconsciously turned back and looked at the two people behind her. "Is this true?" Sijian said, "It is about 100 kilometers away from us. If you don't believe it, you can drive over to see it." The woman frowned tightly, looked back at the giant bird on the screen, retracted her gaze, and said, "Follow me, I need you to show me the way, I have a helicopter." As she said that, she went out of the tent on her own. Sijian and Tang beside her looked at each other. There was a pilot on the helicopter. The pilot drove the helicopter to a distance of about 600 meters from the giant bird. Chi stopped the helicopter, and she looked at Chenmu in the distance, and was a little stunned for a while. "It's actually true, incredible. But how is this possible?" Chi said in disbelief. Sig uncrossed his arms, looked at Chi beside him, and said, "Do you know it?" Chi looked at the giant bird in front of him. The wind blew, and the feathers on the giant bird fluttered, and the 5 long tails behind it fluttered in the wind. It looked very handsome. Chi frowned. "There is a mythical creature called the phoenix. The phoenix tail is similar to the peacock tail, but unlike the peacock tail, the phoenix tail is called the phoenix tail. The number of phoenix tails is 2, 3, 5 to 9. This guy has 5 tails behind him, which is obviously a kind of phoenix. According to the ancient Eastern book Yongle Encyclopedia, there are 5 kinds of phoenixes in the world. The red ones are phoenixes, the green ones are phoenixes, the yellow ones are phoenixes, the purple ones are, and the white ones are swans." Chi said, "The one in front of you is mainly green, and it is obviously a blue phoenix. But why?" Chi's pupils trembled slightly, with an unbelievable look in his eyes. How could the blue phoenix recorded in the myth be here? Sijian looked at Tang beside him, and then looked at Chi. Chi adjusted her mood, retracted her gaze, looked at Sijian, and said, "From today on, I will take over here." Sijian was stunned, and frowned. "What do you mean?" Chi was too lazy to say anything, took out a certificate and handed it to Sijian. Sijian looked at it, and his face changed slightly. Chi took the certificate, picked up the telescope, looked at Chenmu in the distance, and said lightly, "After that, all military operations here will be arranged by me, and you must report your every move and discovery to me." Yes. Sijian could only nod. Tang next to him looked at Sijian. "Teacher, who is she?" Sijian lowered his voice, "The king's envoy." Tang was startled. She immediately understood, and didn't say anything. On the other side, Chenmu felt the movement here. he subconsciously turned his head and looked in Chi's direction. Their eyes met. Chi put down the telescope, her expression was strange. Chen Mu looked at the helicopter in the distance, he frowned slightly. What are these guys going to do again? Forget it, Chen Mu was too lazy to care. He retracted his gaze and stared at the lion ant beast in front of him. Chen Mu didn't plan to go to war with humans at the moment. If there were a few nuclear bombs, Chen Mu didn't think he could handle it. Of course, if they come to trouble him, Chen Mu will let them know that he is not easy to mess with. Chen Mu's principle now is that if others do not offend me, I will not offend others. If others offend me, he does not mind changing his lion, ox, and ant taste and not eating grass every day. The next day, Chen Mu was lazily lying on the grass to rest. At this time, Chen Mu heard the sound of a helicopter. He slowly opened his eyes and saw a helicopter parked in the distance. A woman in military uniform and sunglasses was walking towards him. Chen Mu knew that woman. Wasn't that the woman he saw in the helicopter yesterday? What is she doing here? Looking for death. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 127. In the ancient Oriental book Yongle Encyclopedia, there are 5 phoenixes, among which the blue one is Luan. The blue Luan is said to be a divine bird that often accompanies the Queen Mother of the West and is also the messenger of the Queen Mother of the West. There is only one in the world. There is a very famous illusion about the blue Luan. It is not known from which ancient book it comes from, but this legend has been passed down to the present. The blue Luan did not understand the meaning of its life at first, until it saw the phoenix and the phoenix, it realized the meaning of its existence, which is to find a partner. After that, the blue Luan has been looking for its partner. But the problem is that there is only one blue Luan in the world. No matter how it looks, it can't find it. Until one day, it found a mirror and saw another blue Luan in the mirror. It thought it had found it, and it was so excited that it made an excited phoenix cry. The story ends here. From then on, people regarded the blue Luan as a divine beast representing love. Of course, the story is over, but everyone who knows the story knows that things are not over. One day, the Qingluan will understand that the Qingluan in the mirror is itself. Then it will once again embark on the road to find a partner, and the ending of the search is also foreseeable. There is only one Qingluan in the world, and it is impossible for it to find another one, no matter how long it takes. She looked at the huge Qingluan in front of her, and she couldn't help swallowing her saliva. It's too big. When she looked at this from the helicopter, it was not so shocking, but now that she looked at it up close, she felt an unprecedented sense of threat. For the Qingluan in front of her, it would probably be easy to kill her. She wanted to wear sunglasses to give herself some confidence, but after feeling the momentum emanating from this Qingluan, she was a little worried that her strength would anger it. She slowly took off her sunglasses. Qi showed a hearty smile and said, "My name is Qi, and I am from Jialan country. I have heard about you, I know you can speak human language, and I know you have human consciousness. Let's make a deal." She directly stated the purpose of meeting Chen Mu. Make a deal. She learned about the beast in front of her through Sijian. This beast can speak human language, and it also deliberately avoids places where humans are. As long as humans don't provoke it, it will ignore humans. From this, she can definitely judge that this is not a fierce beast that will actively attack humans. Recalling her understanding of Qingluan, she also knows that the creature in front of her is a beast, not a fierce beast that hates humans. After getting this information, based on her understanding of mythology, she decided to take a risk and try to make a deal with the beast in front of her. Of course, trading is one thing, and her main purpose is to use trading to control the beast in front of her. And what she said? Chen Mu was a little puzzled. Trading. What he wants, can she give him? What Chenmu wants now is endless evolutionary energy, which is obviously not something she can give. And Chenmu doesn't think she knows what he wants. Chenmu said lightly, "What deal?" Hearing Chenmu's words, Chi's breath condensed, and her pupils shrank slightly. Although she had heard from Sigon that this mythical beast could speak, she was still a little shocked when she really heard it. Seeing Chi motionless, Chenmu was a little impatient. "Hello." Chi came back to her senses. She smiled awkwardly and said, "Although I know you can speak, I still can't help but be shocked when I really heard it." "Sorry, let's talk about the transaction." Chenmu frowned slightly. Chi knew Chenmu's impatience. She realized that although the mythical beast in front of her would not actively hurt humans, it seemed to be hostile to humans. Chi swallowed her saliva and forced herself to calm down. She said, "Don't you know that you are looking for a partner? I think we can help you." Chenmu was a little confused by what this woman said. "What? Looking for a partner?" Chenmu was a little puzzled. When did he say he wanted to find a partner? Chenmu had been an animal for too long, and he had even forgotten the feeling of being a human. At the same time, he couldn't understand why some mythical beasts had to become humans. Humans are such weak creatures that even a cheetah can easily kill them. The only thing that makes humans stronger than animals is technology. But those technologies are only in the hands of a few people, and they will not be easily used. Most humans are still scumbags. Think about when Chenmu was a human, wasn't he also a scumbag? Tomorrow he will be a social animal, going to work and going home every day, just like being in prison. Is it interesting to be a human? As for finding a partner, for animals, it is just for reproduction. But Chenmu is not interested in reproduction. So for Chenmu, the deal that Chi is talking about is a bit inexplicable. Chi smiled and said, "Qingluan is a mythical beast that represents love. It only wants to find a partner in its lifetime. We, Jialan, can help you with this." Jialan, a country name that you have never heard of, is it a small country? There are countless countries on the earth. There are so many countries, it is normal that you have never heard of it. Chenmu looked at Chi, "Qingluan." He muttered. As a former Oriental, Chenmu naturally knew what Qingluan was, but he was a little confused. Why did this guy suddenly mention Qingluan? Chenmu suddenly realized something. He stared at Chi. "You said, I am Qingluan." Chi was slightly startled, as if in a daze. "You, aren't you?" Chenmu was silent for 3 seconds. The atmosphere was a little awkward for a while. Chenmu slowly lay down on the grass, rested with his eyes closed, and said lazily, "Get out of here while I'm in a good mood." Chi was stunned for a moment, looking at Chenmu who was resting with his eyes closed. He was suddenly confused. She hesitated, then turned and left. She got on the helicopter. Left in a helicopter. Listened to the sound of helicopters flying away. Chenmu felt a little confused. Have these two-legged apes lost their minds? Would you actually think that you are Qingluan? He is just a new creature that combines the genes of a blue whale, an albatross, and a peacock. Could it be that the combination of ordinary animal genes results in a mythical beast? Wouldn't the liger, tiger, and lion become mythical beasts as well? Chenmu is too lazy to pay attention to these people. Now he continues to waste time and do breeding. Breeding these lion and cow ants so that he can obtain evolutionary energy is the main business. Chi returned to the headquarters by plane. "Tell me, what is going on?" Chi stood in front of the table and looked at Sigon and Tang who were sitting at the table. Sigon thought for a moment and said, "It is indeed the same as the Qingluan described in ancient Eastern books, but, we know it is Qingluan, but it does not mean that it also knows that it is Qingluan." Chi was stunned for a moment. She frowned and stared at Sigon. Sigon said, "Qingluan is the name humans call it, but it may not have a name." "What do you mean?" Chi didn't react. Sijun said, "The simplest example, do you think ants know that they are called ants?" Chi was stunned. Sijun said, "Ant is the name we give to ants in order to identify them. But they don't know that they have this name, and Qingluan may not know that he also has the name Qingluan." Chi's frowned eyebrows slowly relaxed. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 128. For Chen Mu, the woman's behavior was just a small episode. It was like a fly flying past his ear, making him a little irritated. After the fly left, he continued his breeding life. He flapped his wings and flew high in the sky, observing the actions of the lion bull ants below while feeling the pleasure of the oncoming wind. Chen Mu's body was too big. Although it was not easy to take off due to his huge body, the bigger the bird, the easier it was to use the updraft. Albatrosses are the gliding champions among birds. They can keenly capture the updraft and then fly by the updraft. In this process, they can even fly for a few days without flapping their wings for a long time. And this excellent gliding ability is obviously inseparable from the huge body of the albatross. The larger the body, the larger the wings, and the larger the updraft that can be controlled. Albatrosses can glide without moving for days, and Chen Mu, as a giant bird, can now do it without any effort, just like floating on the sea. Very relaxed and pleasant. Suddenly, Chen Mu, who was observing the movements of the lion ox ants, saw a familiar woman standing in the place where Chen Mu was resting through his consciousness. She raised her face and looked in the direction of Chen Mu. Seeing this, Chen Mu frowned slightly. "Come again? What does this human want to do?" Chen Mu is now a little impatient. He flapped his wings and fell from the sky. Chi raised his face and looked at the giant bird with gorgeous feathers flying towards him in the sky. The feathers of the giant bird are very gorgeous, and the phoenix tail behind it is beautiful. In terms of appearance, it can be said to be full of charm. But looking at this fairy tale-like creature in front of her, she felt a strong sense of uneasiness and fear. Because she knew very well that if the creature in front of her wanted to kill her, she could easily kill her with just a casual move. But she also knew that her mission was very important and time was very tight. The fact that Jialan was hiding the existence of this creature from the world did not mean that this matter could be kept secret forever. In other words, she needed to control the beast from the east in a limited time. Only by possessing it, she would have supreme power. In Jialan, her status rose. Huh! Accompanied by a whistling wind. Chi did not react for a moment and was blown to the ground by the wind. Chen Mu fell down, his feet landed on the ground, he slowly folded his wings and looked at the woman in front of him. The woman fell to the ground, looking a little embarrassed. Chen Mu squinted his eyes and stared at her, saying, "My patience is limited." The woman stood up and brushed off the weeds on her body. She said, "I'm sorry, if I don't come to you, I will lose a lot of things." She raised her face and looked at Chen Mu. "I know you are a little impatient, but I can't help it. Even if you want to kill me, I can't help it." She was very nervous, but she was betting on the character of the Luan bird. The Luan bird is a kind of divine beast, not a fierce beast. She bet that he would not kill her. However, the Luan bird in front of her still made Chi feel terrible pressure because of its huge body. It was too huge. Chen Mu looked at the woman in front of him. For him, this woman was nothing to be pitied, but she didn't do anything to him. It would be bad if he just beat her to death. This was not in line with Chen Mu's character. Chen Mu's body was emitting golden light. The woman was slightly startled, and she looked at the scene in front of her in a daze. Chen Mu's body was shrinking. Soon, a griffin appeared in front of the woman. Chen Mu slowly opened his eyes and stared at the woman. The woman was stunned. "Griffin beast." Chi muttered subconsciously. Griffin beast, also known as griffin. No one knows the origin of the griffin. Now, due to the spread of various media, many people think that the griffin is a magical creature, a creature created by some kind of magic experiment, but in fact it is not. Before the appearance of fantasy elements such as magic, it can even be said that before there were written records of griffins, the creature of the griffin had been passed down from the legendary stories of the old people. In terms of literature records, the griffin first appeared in the ancient Akkadian mythology, about a mythical story about a main god named Marduk who killed a monster and became a god. The griffin was the third monster killed by Marduk. Therefore, the griffin should be born in Western mythology and belong to the monster in mythology. Chi never expected that the mythical beast Qingluan in the Eastern mythology that he just saw was actually the griffin in the Western mythology. Although Chi had heard Sig mention this before and had seen the griffin in the video, she was still shocked when she saw it with her own eyes. Chen Mu thought, it's not good to be too big. It's too tall. It's uncomfortable to look down at people. It's better to change to a body size similar to the guy in the conversation. He looked at the woman in front of him, but found that she was looking at him with her mouth slightly open in surprise. That expression. So humans really have exaggerated expressions like those in the movie in real life. Chen Mu said, "Hey." Chi came back to her senses, she was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Chen Mu. "Ah, I'm so shocked." Chen Mu said, "If you have something to say, just say it." Chi was not that scared. Although the griffin is a demon beast in Marduk's story, according to the mythological stories that follow, most of the griffins are positive beasts. They often help humans defend their homes. Like the dragon in the East, the griffin is a sacred beast revered by ancient Persia and is a lucky beast. Chi looked at Chen Mu and said seriously, "I want to ask you to become the guardian beast of our country on behalf of the country behind me, Jialan. As long as you agree to be the guardian beast of our country, as long as you want it, as long as our country has it, we can give it to you." Chen Mu said lightly, "That's all." It sounds good, but Chen Mu, who was once a human, naturally knew that this group of people had bad intentions. These people obviously wanted to use him. As for how to use him, Chen Mu was not very clear, but he was too lazy to think about it, because he didn't want to be used. This question didn't need to be known, because he couldn't agree. Chi was startled, and she nodded slightly, "That's all." Chen Mu said, "Then go back and tell the people behind you, I'm not interested." As he said that, he flapped his wings and flew up. Chi used her hands to block the strong wind, and she opened her eyes with difficulty and looked at Chen Mu. Chen Mu was flying in the air, looking at Chi coldly, and said, "And I hope this is the last time I see you, my patience is limited, if there is a next time, you will be a corpse." As he said that, he flapped his wings and flew high into the sky under Chi's gaze. Suddenly, he turned into a blue phoenix, flapped his wings, and flew straight into the sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 129. That night. Doesn't it want to see you? Yes. She held the phone to her ear. She stood on the grassland, looking at the starry sky of the grassland, listening to the person on the other end of the phone. Since he doesn't want to see you, it's simple, you just find someone else and let him see it. Chi was slightly startled, she frowned, "King, if this happens, it will think we are provoking it, and that person will die. It's not certain whether it will die. Didn't you say that Qingluan is a divine beast, not a fierce beast? But even a divine beast has its own temper. If we provoke it?" Chi frowned and became anxious. "This king doesn't care about this. You have to know that if we control it, then we in Jialan will also have our weapons, and others dare not look down on us," he said lightly. "Since you can't get close now, let others get close. As for whether it will die, we will talk about it later. If we can't control it, we don't allow others to control it, understand? After that, he hung up the phone. She listened to the beeping sound from the other end of the phone, and she slowly said, "Okay, father." The next day, Chen Mu was lying on the ground, raising his head and looking in the direction of the lion bull ants. As usual, he observed the movements of the lion bull ants. The queen of the lion bull ants seemed to have inherited the characteristics of the marching ants. When the marching ant queen lays eggs, she will lay 6 special eggs each time. These eggs will develop into queen ants or king ants with wings, and at the same time, more than 1,000 male ants with wings will be produced. After these eggs are fully developed, they will become lion bull ant kings or queens, or male ants on the lion bull ant side, and these things will fly out. If they are not stopped, they will probably fly everywhere. If they run outside to reproduce, the environmental balance in Africa will collapse at that time. When the grass on the grassland is eaten up, it will be troublesome. So, Chen Mu will be a shepherd, but when these new things appear, they will be swallowed up one by one. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, a strange yet familiar sound came. Chen Mu looked back and saw a helicopter flying towards him. He saw the helicopter flying towards him. Chen Mu's eyes were cold, and his body turned into a white-bellied sea eagle, flying straight into the sky. Accompanied by a bright light, a huge blue phoenix appeared in the sky. He flapped his huge wings and flew towards the helicopter. The people on the helicopter saw Chen Mu flying over, and they chose to stop. The helicopter was flying in the air. Chen Mu flew past and looked at the people in the helicopter with sharp eyes through the helicopter. What Chen Mu saw was another face. The door of the helicopter had been opened, and a man in a white coat stood at the door. He put his hands in his pockets and looked at Chen Mu calmly. "Why you?" Chen Mu said subconsciously. Hearing this, Sigeun's eyes lit up slightly. He raised his hand, pushed his glasses, and smiled. "Sure enough, you really know me." "What do you mean?" Chen Mu was a little surprised. Sigeun smiled. "I have been staying in a tent far away, observing you through a drone. I guessed at the time that you should know my existence. But this time it was just a guess. I never thought that there would be a day when I would be noticed by God." God? This guy, calling himself a god. Chen Mu naturally knew Sigeun. He didn't see people with his naked eyes, but with his consciousness. He had been here for so long, so he naturally discovered the humans' headquarters a long time ago. It's just that Chen Mu didn't intend to pay attention to them. It's just that the man in front of him, called Sigeun, seemed a little strange. What is he doing here? Forget it. Chen Mu was too lazy to think. Sigeun raised his face, looked at the sky of Africa, and said, "The sky in Africa during the dry season looks so beautiful, completely different from the one in the city." Boom. Accompanied by a loud noise. The armored wings hit the helicopter. The whole helicopter exploded. With the flames, the helicopter crashed. The helicopter pilot and Sigeun died together. The rolling flames lit up. It turned into several pieces of flaming iron blocks and fell to the ground, causing bursts of flames. In the command center, looking at the scene in front of him, Qi gritted his teeth. Tang, who was standing aside, looked at the scene with tears in his eyes. "Teacher." Qi took a deep breath, adjusted his mood, and said, "Let's go." Tang stared at the screen blankly, not knowing what to do for a while. Qi paused slightly. She turned her head and looked at Tang. "Don't forget, your life was exchanged by your teacher. If you don't want this life, you can continue to stay here." Tang was stunned. She came back to her senses and looked at Qi. "Will you die if you stay here?" Suddenly, the big screen in front lit up. There was no signal, and the screen turned blue. Noticing the movement on the screen, Chi and Tang both subconsciously glanced at the screen. Chi said, "The wrath of the beast, do you think it will end after killing your teacher? You are too naive, let's go." As she said that, she pulled Tang's hand and left the tent. Soon, Tang got on a helicopter and flew away with Chi. At this time, Chi took out a laptop and turned on the laptop screen. The screen lit up one picture after another. Tang then realized that these images were all from the monitors, and those monitors were obviously installed in the headquarters, all facing the sky. At this time, through the images transmitted by the monitor, a huge blue phoenix can be seen flying towards the headquarters from a distance. Seeing this scene, Tang's eyes trembled slightly. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Suddenly, a sound rang out. This sound attracted Tang's attention. She raised her head and saw 6 bombers flying neatly over the helicopter. On the other side, Chen Mu came to the human headquarters. He flew in the air, looking at the tents below and the people walking outside the tents. Some of these people were wearing white coats and were researchers, and some were wearing military uniforms and were obviously soldiers. At this moment, these uninformed people were looking at the side with puzzled expressions. Chen Mu told the female human that his patience was limited. Although he didn't want to fight with humans, he couldn't forgive humans for turning his words into wind in their ears. If she doesn't allow that woman to come here to find her for the 3rd time, she will let another one come. She completely trampled on Chen Mu's IQ. In that case, then show me something to let you know what weight means, Chen Mu said lightly. There was an avatar beside Chen Mu. An avatar as huge as Chen Mu. The avatar's entire body was covered with silver armor in an instant. Ming. Accompanied by a phoenix cry that roared to the sky. The armored blue phoenix fell directly from the sky. The huge body walked close to the ground, and the wings spread out and passed by close to the ground. As long as the human body was hit by the armored blue phoenix, the body would be directly turned into minced meat, and those tents, military equipment and vehicles were turned into ruins. Bang bang bang. A series of loud noises sounded. The armored blue phoenix was like a giant destruction machine. When it passed. At this moment, only broken limbs and some ruins were left at the command center. Chi and Tang, who were sitting in the helicopter, watched this scene. Chi had sweat on his forehead and frowned, while Tang's face was pale. No more screams could be heard. As the armored Qingluan disappeared, a deep mark appeared on the ground. Chen Mu slowly landed at the place where the original command post was located. He slowly stood up, folded his wings, and looked around. This way, it should be almost done. Suddenly, Chen Mu heard a strange sound. He raised his head and saw 6 bombers flying towards the side with long white smoke. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 130. What is that? Tang subconsciously looked at the woman beside him. Chi bit her lower lip. Bomber. Tang was stunned for a moment. Bomber, this is. Chi said solemnly, the king said that if there is no way to use him, other forces will not be allowed to possess it. What happened here? He was watching over there, these bombers were sent by him, I guess this is how he ended up dealing with it. After hearing this, Tang understood. The king wanted to kill the sacred beast. As long as the sacred beast dies, then other forces can't use it. Tang's face turned pale. Would this make the beast even more angry? No, we can't do this. She looked at Chi nervously and said, stop the king and cancel the bombing order. When Chi heard this, she was slightly startled and looked at Tang subconsciously. Your teacher was killed by it, and you still want to help it? Tang said anxiously, my teacher said that existence is the truth. Since the mythical beast will appear there, there must be a reason for its appearance. Teacher, he came to me last night and he told me that he will die today. But he also told me that no matter what, we should not let divine beasts fight with humans. The conflict between humans and animals has always been strong, and that mythical beast can transform into many animals. It is like a collection of nature. Fighting against it is like fighting against nature. Tang looked at Chi. In this way, no matter what, it's not good for nature or us humans. Chi looked at Tang, who was in tears. She looked away, her eyebrows furrowed. Sir, Tang said quickly. Chi said, this is the king's decision. Even I can't stop it? She looked at the laptop screen, and most of the images on the screen had disappeared. There were only 3 independent monitors installed on the big trees outside the headquarters, observing the place in front of them that was about to become a battlefield between humans and nature. Missiles fell from the sky one after another. The missiles fell in flakes. What should I do? Chen Mu thought of this question in his mind. The bombing range was too wide, and Flicker couldn't escape. I can only resist. Chen Mu's body lit up with silver armor. Boom 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 boom. After the missile fell, the loud noises were deafening. Fire splattered and dust flew. Chen Mu felt the hot breath coming towards him, and the armor on his body lit up red. He was shocked to find that the biological armor he was proud of was melting. Some of the fragments went right through the armor and penetrated his body. Intense pain came from within the body. At the same time as the severe pain was felt, the extremely fast self-healing ability automatically activated and began to heal itself. But the bombing power of these missiles was too great, and the bombing was too intensive. The self-healing ability simply cannot keep up with the speed of destruction. Soon, Chen Mu's body began to dismember under the fierce bombing. Chen Mu's location was almost covered by the high temperature, flames, and black smoke that could melt steel. There was a strong burning smell in the air. There are so many missiles that it's almost as if they don't care about their lives. The bombardment lasted for a long time, accompanied by a mushroom cloud rising slowly. The bombings that shook the land finally stopped. Is it over? Through the laptop, Chi whispered subconsciously. Slowly the dust mist dissipated. The bombed area over there revealed pits one after another. The pits were densely packed and connected together to form an even bigger pit. The pit was scorched black, and you could see the land melted by the high temperature. Large areas of burnt black, red, and glowing sand that turned into liquid melted together. The entire air was distorted by the high temperature. In this pit, it seems that only the ferocious remains after the missiles were destroyed, and Qingluan, who was still standing in this pit before, has disappeared. See this scene. Qi breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that this nature is not difficult to deal with. As he said that, Qi looked at Tang beside him. Tang was looking straight at the screen, her eyes trembling slightly. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Qi subconsciously looked at the laptop and looked at the monitor on the big tree outside the headquarters. She was surprised to find an unusual situation. The Qingluan did disappear, but in the middle of the huge pit, a golden ball of light appeared. The golden ball of light quickly grew in size under Qi and Tang's gaze. What is that? Tang muttered to himself, not knowing who he was asking. And Qi seemed to realize something, and her face became very ugly. No, Qi said no twice subconsciously. No, that's not right. Qi stood up subconsciously, her face looking a little complicated and shocked beyond words. She put the laptop aside, stood up, and walked to the door of the helicopter. She looked outside. Through the open door, she looked at the sky in the distance that was stained red by the flames. Impossible. Qi seemed to be greatly shocked. Tang picked up the laptop and looked at Qi's back. She said, "What's wrong?" Qi's eyes trembled as he said, "It is recorded in ancient Eastern books that Qingluan is one of the 5 phoenixes and belongs to the phoenix. When Qingluan dies and is reborn from the ashes, he will become a phoenix." Tang was stunned, as if struck by lightning. She quickly picked up the laptop and looked at the screen inside. On the screen, the golden sphere had grown to the size of Qingluan. Under Tang's gaze, these spheres shattered. A giant bird with the same shape as Qingluan broke through the eggshell and appeared in front of Tang. The giant bird slowly opened its closed eyes, revealing a pair of red pupils. Tang subconsciously covered her mouth. She looked surprised. The giant bird spread its huge wings. Once spread, the fiery red wings were as bright as flames. Tang was stunned. As the original bird of the giant bird, Chen Mu also came back to his senses. After feeling that his body had returned to normal, Chen Mu sighed subconsciously. Extreme self-healing is really useful. Even if it is blasted into slag, it can heal itself back to its original appearance. It's just like resurrection. This ability is too buggy. Chen Mu subconsciously looked at his body and found that his feathers had turned red. Strange, why did it turn red? Did it mutate genetically? Chen Mu was too lazy to think about it. He looked up at the direction where the bombers were flying away. Run away after the bombing? Wishful thinking. There was wind. Suddenly, Chen Mu felt a gust of wind coming towards him. It flapped its wings violently. The wind blew. The wings took advantage of the updraft generated by the oncoming wind and flew into the wind. He rode the updraft and flew straight into the sky, flying towards the direction of the flying bombers.